going on, but first a skeletal outline of the news. So yesterday, President Trump told a group of his supporters to head to the U.S. Capitol building. Many of them did. While they were there, some of Trump's supporters pushed over police barricades, crawled through broken windows, and made a mess inside. One of the protesters, a woman from San Diego who was wearing a Donald Trump flag as a cape, was shot dead by police. Within minutes of all of this, virtually every powerful person in the country erupted in rage at Donald Trump. Business leaders demanded that Trump be removed from office immediately under the 25th Amendment. Members of Congress clamored to impeach Donald Trump. At least one Democrat suggested that anyone in Congress who supported Donald Trump's claims of election fraud must be expelled. Meanwhile, the media said about denouncing Donald Trump as a terrorist and a murderer, etc. We could go on, but that's a rough recap of the last 24 hours. What do you notice about every news story on that list? They're all about Donald Trump, every one of them. The people in charge of every institution in American life now spend all day talking about Donald Trump. You may not have noticed because that's not very different from any other day over the past 5 years. Since the moment he announced for office, it has been all about Donald Trump all of the time. And the effect on us has been noticeable. We've gone from being this big, sprawling continental country with an enormous span of concerns and interests to a kind of sweaty, airless chat room of 330 million people, all of whom are simultaneously focused with monomaniacal intensity on a single man, Donald Trump. That is not healthy, no matter how you feel about Trump. And by the way, we're not attacking him. Very few media outlets have been more supportive of Donald Trump's 2016 agenda than this show has been. We agreed with his ideas then, we agree with them now. But at some point, you've got to wonder about where our country is putting all of its energy. Is any single president, anyone, worth all of this time and attention? All politicians, whether you agree with them or not, come with a shelf life. They're people. They don't last forever. None of us do. In Trump's case, the expiration date arrives in 13 days. And after that, he will not be president. Now, we know a lot's going on, but just for a second, let's take the longitudinal view, the long view, by which we mean let's think about what life will be like in February, which is next month. 2 weeks from tonight, Donald Trump will no longer be in control of our nuclear arsenal. He will not have command of the federal agency, or even, most likely, his own Twitter account. As much as all of that may upset you, it is nevertheless true. We cannot change it. The rest of us, and this is the key, will still be here. We've got nowhere to go. We don't have foreign passports. We're staying till the end. So what is life going to be like for us on January 21st? Not many people seem to be thinking about that, up to and including the people we pay to think about it, our political leaders. Donald Trump thinks almost exclusively about Donald Trump. But so does almost every single Democrat in the Congress, as well as every single Republican. All of them, every one of them, is Trump obsessed. Who's you obsessed? Who's got your concerns top of mind? Who wakes up in the middle of the night worried about your family? As far as we can tell, no one. And that's the main thing we need to change. It won't be easy, but the themes are pretty clear, and here are the basics. The point of the Republican Party is not to protect the personal reputations of its leaders. That cannot be the priority. The point of the Republican Party is to protect its voters. In practice, that means protecting the Bill of Rights, our most basic freedoms. Those are the bedrock promises of American life. Without them, you wouldn't want to live here. Those freedoms are incalculably more important than any single politician. Donald Trump could become immortal and win the next 40 presidential elections, and his daughter the next 40 after that. But if America becomes a place where you have to violate your own conscience in order to hold a job, where you're not allowed to protect your family from mob violence, where your children can't afford to get married and raise your grandchildren because employers don't like their skin color, then what's the point of all of it? There is no point. No one wants to live in a place like that, or should have to, no matter who the president is. We should be very concerned about all of this right now. These are the core concerns. Much more concerned we are about whether Donald Trump can claim that he actually won Pennsylvania, or Arizona, or whatever. The Trump protest at the Capitol yesterday is already being used as a pretext for an unprecedented crackdown on civil liberties. Just in the last several hours, we have heard people in positions of power and authority demand that those who support Donald Trump should no longer be allowed to publish books, or use the internet, or fly on airplanes. Driving cars, holding jobs, staying in hotels, those will certainly be next, and we're barely exaggerating. In fact, we're predicting it. To justify mind-bending, terrifyingly un-American demands like these, they are, as usual, relying on lies and hysteria. What happened yesterday, telling us, wasn't simply that a political protest got out of hand after the president recklessly encouraged it. That is, in fact, what happened. But it's not what they're saying. Instead, they're calling it domestic terrorism. CNN describes it as an insurrection. Chuck Schumer likened it to Pearl Harbor. It was really our generation's 9/11. And needs to say it was white supremacy. Today, to name just one small but revealing example, the Berkshire School in Massachusetts, a boarding school that costs $64,000 a year to attend, sent a letter to parents describing what happened yesterday as, quote, these acts of violence and racism. Now, if you're a literal person tied to outdated Western notions of linear thought and fact, that might confuse you. Racism? Whatever you thought about what happened yesterday, what was racist about it? Well, nothing, of course. There was nothing racist about it. The Berkshire School is lying. So is everyone else on the left. Why are they doing that? Simple. They know that if they keep saying it, history will record it as true. They understand, in other words, the power of language, and that's why they try to control language. They know that words have consequences. This is scary. In the face of it, the party that should be stepping in to stop it, to push back, to tell the truth in the face of lies, and to protect its voters from this deception and the destruction that inevitably comes next, that party does nothing. Often, in fact, they join in. This afternoon, a group of Republican staffers on Capitol Hill, lawyers who work for Republican elected officials, texted each other and concluded that actually, now that we think about it, yesterday's protest rally really was racist. Yeah, it was racist. Those are the people protecting you. With bodyguards like this, tens of millions of Americans have no chance. They're about to be crushed by the ascendant left. The people say, well, I don't think they should be allowed to fly on airplanes. What country is this? These people need a defender. You need a defender. Why is no one defending them? The main problem, and this really is the main problem, on the right anyway, the people who run the Republican Party don't really like their own voters. And they especially don't want the voters that Trump brought. Trump brought the party's ranks noticeably downscale, from the country club to the trailer park, as they often sneer, and this horrifies them. Many Republicans in Washington now despise the people they're supposed to represent and protect. And by the way, it's not just Republican leaders who feel this way, it's our entire leadership class, it's everyone in charge. You rarely hear it spoken out loud, but this is the truth. A very specific form of intra-white loathing is at the core of the reaction to Donald Trump. Here's what it is. Nothing is more repulsive to socially anxious white professionals than working class people who look like them. Trolls are their single greatest fear. They remind them of where they may have come from or where they could be going if things turn south. So if you want to understand the hatred, the real hatred, not just disagreement, but gut-level loathing and fear of Trump, in, say, New York or Washington or LA, you got to understand that first. It's not really Trump. It's his voters. The new money class despises them. Trump didn't despise them, and that really was his secret in the end. He didn't have much in some ways, but Donald Trump did not judge his own voters. In real life, Trump actually ate McDonald's. That's true, and they knew it was true, and they were very grateful for it. And you'd be grateful for it, too, if everyone else hated you. Pretty soon, like 13 days from now, these voters, tens of millions of them, will not have Donald Trump to protect them. They won't have anyone. And unless the Republican Party decides to wake up and push back against the lies in progress and acknowledge the purpose of those lies, which is an unprecedented crackdown on the way you live, you will have no chance either. Miranda Devine is a columnist for the New York Post, and she joins us tonight. Miranda, thanks so much for coming on. We've had